Welcome to Blue Monday with me, Les, Dave, and Rodger, as ever. It's pretty grim outside. The rain's lashing down. It's a bit of a dark, dull January morning. But lads, thankfully, we have got the Toffees to cheer us up and brighten our day. Not too often we've been able to say that, is it? But back-to-back wins. Got a little bit of breathing space now between us and Wolves. We're sort of moving up to that group ahead of us in the table. Just want to start off with your overall view of the game. Rodger, I'll come to you first.
Well, I think if this carries on much longer, we're going to have to change the name of this show from Blue Monday to Happy Mondays, aren't we?
I mean, I'm all in on
that. It didn't surprise me at all. I predicted that we would not lose, and I was very confident that we wouldn't lose. And I'm starting to trust my football team again. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable feeling of we'll be all right. I wasn't really panicking at any point. And we just know what we're doing. And there's a togetherness that we haven't seen for a very, very long time. And the highlight for me of the entire game was the kind of semi-punch up at the final whistle. I thought that was magnificent. It's what I want to see my players doing, and players running off the bench to defend each other. Because the Brighton crybabies didn't get what they wanted. I mean, what do they expect? 16 shots and only one on target. What do they expect?
Yeah.
I thought we were magnificent. And you can't beat a 1-0 away win. I wish I'd been there, but I'm glad I wasn't, because I'd probably be a jinx. I've never seen us win at Brighton, so I'll take some plaudits for not going.
David, it's funny there, isn't it, that Rodger says we know what we're doing, and this team does actually look like it knows what it's doing now. So there's a lot of comparisons over the weekend, because essentially this was I wouldn't say backs to the wall, but it was a bit of a siege mentality thing. So, Calvert-Lewin went off early, Beto came on, we got the penalty. Brighton have a lot of the possession, most of it, as expected. Brighton have 16 shots, only one on target, like Rodger said. But it didn't feel... So that's very much like in the Sean Dyche mould of how we've been playing every game this season. But it didn't feel like it did it. At no point in that game did I feel the team was retreating and going further and further back, inviting the pressure on, waiting for the shots to come in. A couple were blocked by bodies. A lot of shots were wayward. We just had them at arm's length, didn't we? And I don't know about you, but to me, it felt more composed. And like Rodger said, we did know what we were doing more than earlier in the season.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the narrative's now changed a lot between, we've got somebody else who's sort of dinosaur manager like Sean Dyche. You're born from the same cloth, all of those sort of analogies people have used towards it. I think that's starting to become very late. It's happened quite quickly in not even a fortnight since Moyes has come back in. I feel as if the shots they had as well, you having one shot on target would essentially say to me that they have to resort to hitting from a distance.
Yeah.
Had no chances of, I can't remember one was in the actual, but I think Matoma had one, which he put wide. That was the only time I think. I don't check the stats on this, how far away each of their shots were. If Everton are letting teams do that, I'm absolutely fine, because I trust Pickford to deal with that, unless it's an absolute rocket that goes in against us. It's interesting. I think the way in which things have started to change in my mind with this is we've relied upon, or I think what has been the main topic of why Everton will stay in the Premier League in recent seasons has been because of how there are three sides who are much worse than us. I feel as if that's starting to feel like a bit of it's a bit harsh on us now. And as Rodger referred to quite rightly there, you're seeing your team with something you can put your hat on, something we can all look at and say, do you know what, this is what it should be. This is how we should feel. Having a scrap at full time, Moyes running on the pitch, hugging players with a smile on his face. That's something new about him, I think, as well, which is a massive positive too. But
something to be proud of. It's something to be proud of, and we haven't had that for so long.
Yeah, that's spot on. And I just feel as if, do I trust Everton? Sort of the general question that or the general chat in my own mind that I've been having sort of when I've had some free time. Do we trust this team and this squad now more so than having to rely on other results in and around us? And can you say that within less than a fortnight? Well, I think in general the answer is pretty much yes, because I think there's a solidity there that's come about where it hasn't been massively a great difference between this, which sounds slightly controversial in what I've said in the comparison between Moyes and Dyche. But you look at outlets we've got now are completely different. And I think that's one of the things Dyche did consider, which really happened, was Everton counter-attacking. We could counter-attack, we just crap at it. When I look at this now, it seems much more effective with more players we've got to be able to put ourselves onto the front foot. Less possession, yes, that's going to be Everton for quite some time. I'd love to see that in comparison to what it was like in the Moyes' original years. Certainly towards his latter years with Everton, we certainly had more possession on the sides because we look like a really good, effective attacking side. Right now, I think it's really intelligent what we're seeing from Moyes' approach. I think the midfield that we've got as well, it's no coincidence that you're seeing a lot better performances from players. Idrissa Gueye is one that I think many people would consider as man of the match there against Brighton. And what's he now? 34, heading towards 35, is he?
Yeah.
Looks like he was 17 when he's in and around the ball. Mangala as well. Look, there's a couple of injury issues we probably have to address before we play Leicester. But I was watching Leicester versus Spurs, and I know Spurs have got the trouble. What are we in the point behind Spurs? I think it is, which is remarkable.
Yeah, point behind them though.
Yeah. The only result that went on a less than positive way for us on the weekend was Man United winning. I mean, how many times do you think you'd say this? I know they've been. They've been through the shit themselves, but they could change things on the click of a finger, really, couldn't they? So for us to get into this position where we're a win and a draw, or a win or two away from mid-table, that's a massive credit to David Moyes inside 2 weeks. And I'd love to hear, or love to be a fly on the wall when Sean Dyche is talking about it with his mates, or he's down the pub or whatever it is.
High performance podcast soon.
Oh yeah, I mean the thing about that, I'm just thinking, what's a big deal here? If I'd won 2 out of 3 games, we'd be in the exact same position. Would you have put confidence on him doing that? Absolutely not. And I feel already we've seen momentum turn quickly with Moyes. You've seen how he addresses everything, and I've spoken about it, how he addresses himself in and around people. You've got players smiling. You've got players with body language that looks a lot more positive to me. And I've started, it's that kind of thing, isn't it, where you've worried, you panicked all season, another relegation fight, and you're sitting here now on a Monday morning, back-to-back wins for the first time this season, thinking, what was all the fuss about?
Yeah, it is. And just want to temper it a little bit. Don't want to get carried away too much.
And it's easy to get carried away now, isn't it?
People don't listen to this for all the good vibes and getting carried away. They listen to heroes moan. So
do you know what, Les? Just before you carry on with that, Les, me and Matt used to say in the early days, do you know what? Everton win games, less people listen to us. Is what they listen to us for when Everton lose, because they all want to kick off. That's it. Everton, when they were a mid-table side, like, it's hard to talk an hour about them.
I know exactly what you mean, because I think once you get that feeling of anger inside you need some sort of release. And I think listening to other people moan about it kind of gives you that. But on Saturday, I listened to the phone in on Merseyside for the first time in a while because I was so happy with the result. And I know that good feeling coming back is nice. Just to temper it a little bit. So big game on Saturday against Leicester, obviously. We won't go into that just now. We beat them. We're 9 points clear of them. We get beat with 3. It's one of those sort of, not quite a 6-pointer, but it's got that kind of swing. And I think when Benitez came in and Lampard, I think both of them won the first 2 games as well. I know this is Moyes' 3rd game effectively, but we can discount the Villa game a bit like we discount the West Ham game with Sam Allardyce. So it's still very early days and still very tight. One interesting thing I read was only Ipswich's squad cost less than Everton's. So that sort of shows that the margins that we're working on here, that's quite a staggering stat, really. But I think the big change that he's made is bringing in Jake O'Brien. Now, we sort of thought, or I think most people thought, why have we bought this lad if we're not going to play him? Surely he can't be that bad. When Michael Keane was coming in, and admittedly doing okay, Michael Keane. but he gives the jitters to everyone else around him. You can see that. I don't think it's any coincidence that Tarkowski's looked better these last couple of games. He's looked like back to his best again. He's not doing those rash challenges. He's not being the big man until he, like you said, Rodger, at the end of the game where he got a grip of one of their players quite spectacularly in that brawl. But I think Jake O'Brien coming in, it's settled that defence a bit, and the system that he's played, like we spoke about before, where you've got that option to have 3 at the back, or then he pushes out to right back and 4 at the back. That's a big ask for a player. I've got a quote from Jake O'Brien, though, as well. It says, Moyes has been excellent since he came in and made things a lot more clearer for us. There's a lot more confidence, togetherness as well, to know we're not just going to be a team that just sits back. We're a team that's going to get after games and try and win. So he's obviously come in, had a big impact on O'Brien. He's seen him and gone, no, you're a player. You can get in this team. You should be in this team. And I think, Rodger, he's made a huge difference to that defence, hasn't he?
He has, but to be fair to Dyche, which I'm reluctant to be, how else were you going to get O'Brien in the team? Because he was never going to drop Tarkowski, and he was never going to drop Branthwaite. Perhaps O'Brien was bought on the basis that, we might have to take 80 million for Branthwaite, and he might have been, he's one for the future. I get that, but it was a lot of money, and we didn't have a lot of money to spend. So why spend it if you're not going to play it? I understand all those arguments, but Moyes is now sort of bringing him into the team and playing him as a centre back come third centre back come right fullback is worked a treat, hasn't it? We talk about small margins, but these players. O'Brien's made a real difference, and Lindstrom's made a real difference, and as Dave rightly says, Idrissa Gana Gueye was man of the match, and he's a player reborn. And Dyche seems to have now the freedom to express himself, and so that's 4 players who are contributing more. It's not far off 50% of your team.
Yeah,
so that's not a very small margin, If you've given these players belief and they respect you because of who you are and because of your track record, then you're absolutely right. O'Brien is probably pivotal to this different way of playing, because it's allowed Lindstrom in front of him, and those two forming a bit of a partnership works a treat. And Ndiaye and Mykolenko on the other side, and also Branthwaite playing sort of left of a back 3 out to Mykolenko to Ndiaye. There's a way of playing, and I forget who it was who said it on the post-match, but difference, it might have been Rob Vera. The difference with Moyes seems to be that he's recognised you actually get results and achieve things because of the players, not in spite of them. And the impression that you got with Dyche was, oh God, these players are shite, but look at me. I've managed to get a 0-0 at Arsenal. Isn't that brilliant with this sort of bag of nails of a squad? And you can't draw your way to safety. You can't 0-0 your way up the league. And Moyes has clearly both inspired, but he's also made tactical changes because he's a bloody good manager and he knows what he's doing. I'm made up for O'Brien. Long term, we probably need more attack-minded wing-backs if we're going to play with those 3 to give us more of a balance going forward, but it's worked a treat so far, and I can't see why it can't work for the remainder of this season.
Yeah, it does look like he's got a bit of a blueprint there, and I think Dave, just on the fullback area, then, like Rodger said, long term, O'Brien's not going to be a long term right back. I don't think he can have a long-term right back who's 6'6". That just doesn't sit right with me. No. But he has been bringing on Patterson towards the end of the game to sort of play as that wide player and the fullback. Do basically what Lindstrom's doing. Probably a more natural fit for that position, Patterson. Yeah. Do you reckon that could be a long-term plan?
I'd like to think so. I mean, in my mind, I think Patterson's a bit of I don't know. I think there's been a bit of he's been a bit of an enigma, hasn't he, since we've got him. Couple that with the fact managerially Dyche just seemed to want him go as quick as possible. Really, I think we'd have made a massive net loss had we let him go. Which I'm pretty sure if you were to ask the lad, he'd get on a train now if he said there's any chance of him leaving the club, even in this January, because he's not a starter yet by any means. I'd like to think Moyes will have him in there as Everton's natural right back eventually. Like you say with O'Brien, it reminds me a bit. In fact, it reminds me a lot of when we got Lescott, because we had Baines in, and Baines' first season he couldn't get a game, to the point where I remember having a chat with my friend there when I was younger, when he first came over, thinking really good player we've got there from Wigan. He looks like a top class left back. He smashed the Championship apart, bought him in for over 5 million or something like that, wasn't it, at the time? And I was wondering why is he not getting a game? We had Joleon Lescott at left back, and he was absolutely brilliant for that season. And Baines couldn't get a look in. Now, the difference here is where I feel sorry. I feel very sorry for Patterson not getting a run of games where you can have a proper assessment of what he's like. There's been occasions when we looked at it thinking, do you know what? He doesn't look good enough going back towards our goal. It looks like he's far too raw to be a right back defensively. Going forward, though, lightning quick, the lad can get to the byline and he can whip a cross in. That's basically all we've asked for since the heydays of Seamus being able to do so, and Tony Ibbott, who was able to put a great cross into the box. And I'd like to think that's the next step that Moyes is looking to assess. Look, as it is so far, there's no rush to do that. I'd like to see him get on more as well, and I feel as if that those two sides of the pitch are essential to how we go and score goals. And I mentioned this in the Spurs game. There was a lot of conventional Everton forward play, i.e., get it to your winger, get it to your fullback. There's overlaps and there's crosses in, and you've got a big fella up front. And it was traditional like Everton in the way of not looking like that's the only tactic they've got. I think what Moyes has brought in is a completely different overview of what we're able to do with the ball. Not just look at route one, not just look at what Dice tried to do and getting crosses on the box himself. Much more conventional way and much more accurate way is what we've seen so far. And I feel as if Lindstrom's done a good job in getting back. The lad runs his head off. Jack Harrison must be standing there saying, "Well, I do that." Yeah, but you can't.
Sorry, Dave, quickly on that. It's funny that I thought Jack Harrison would have been a very, very David Moyes player. But
hard working and all that. But I think Lindstrom there. I think we've already seen somebody whose attitude, not his attitude. I don't think there's been an issue with his attitude at all. Not that we know anyway, but he doesn't look like somebody who's going to ruffle any feathers because he's not getting a game, because he's on loan as well anyway. So he's probably not too bothered about that. But with him being on the pitch now, I think you're seeing a different lad in terms of confidence, and somebody who will track back all the time and dies exactly the same on the other flank as well. So I feel you've got the makings there of how Everton break forward. The midfield side of things, I'm happy for them to stay slightly deeper, pretty much in and around the centre circle, to prevent anything coming back towards us if the opposition were going to break towards us. So that balance seems to already have been established by Moyes there. I think Rodger mentioned there, there's a tempo in the way we were playing here. It's not just clear the ball as quick as possible. It's look for the ball out, not hoof it back and it comes back the other way quickly. It's find somebody and let's move out, let's break out. And it feels that I don't like saying there's a simplicity to what Moyes is providing here. Probably wanting a better term than simplicity, because that's a bit of an insult to him and how quickly things have started to look a lot different now. But I feel as if, this next week's going to be pretty important as well, isn't it? When Calvert-Lewin's out, Brozier, no idea where he is, been in a hospital for like 2 weeks. And you've got Beto, who, come on and bless him. He was all right, wasn't he? When he came on there, had the worst shot on his left foot that I think I've ever seen when he's 6 yards out. Rather than trying to find one of our players. I look at him, when he walks away, and he's so gutted, and I really want it to work for him, because he looks like he loves it that much. He wants to prove himself that much. But let's face it, if you're finishing the season just with him as our own, the only striker we've got, I'm a bit iffy about that, thinking that Everton are going to comfortably, jog on towards the summer, and we're all looking forward to Bramley more. I think Everton need to address that, and that needs to be the first thing we address in the next week.
Well, he's not the most conventional forward in the world, is he? I think we've had our fair share of unconventional forwards over the years, but he was involved in the goal essentially. So I want to pick up on a couple of the let's say controversial moments. Apparently, now I thought the penalty was clear as day. It staggered me how long they took to determine that that was a penalty. It was described in one paper as controversial. Another paper described the Everton win as controversial. Lineker said the defender will never deliberately handle the ball in that way on Match of the Day. He said if a defender's going down, he would never deliberately do that. I said, well, he just did, because he clearly swept it away from Beto with his hand. And their manager, who's increasingly doing my head in, said no penalty. So VAR can't get into this situation. If the referee decides like this, then you should play on. And the VAR is not necessary for this. It's not a clear handball. He felt the touch, and when he felt the touch, then of course the normal reaction is that the hands are coming, and then the hand went on the ball, so it can't be a penalty. I mean, in about 60 words there, he said absolutely fuck all because it was a penalty.
I was just going to say, before Rodger comes in there, I just actually think it was too obvious that it was a penalty. It was because I looked at it and I thought, what on earth is he doing there with his right hand? And you know, people are saying it like, oh, he could have not done that. Well, stay on your feet. It's not like Beto just throw his shoulder in, but he fell over like a piece of paper. Yeah, and then he sweeps it. It's not like it hits his hand. Yeah, no, the physical movement is it's like he's slapping the ball away.
Because if he doesn't do that, it hits Beto's knee and Beto's through.
I look at it and I think, do you know what? It's that obvious. It's like people almost need a reason to say, "Oh, it's controversial." That what a VAR playing at, and that sort of issue there's always been since it started. I'm looking at it thinking, where's the controversy here? Yeah. And why has he had to run off the pitch? And why is it taking him the odd couple of minutes to look at it and think, oh, do you know what? That's a pen. Because I know it's something that people talk about. They look desperate not to give that, and it was that blatant that you couldn't not give that penalty. Otherwise, there will be uproar down at wherever it is these days.
I think, in fairness to the referee, he couldn't see it because he couldn't see where the ball was from his position. Yeah. But Rodger, that's exactly what VAR is there for, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, the only explanation that I think carries some sense is what Lineker said, although I don't agree with it, because it's a pretty stupid thing for him to do. Yeah. There was very limited danger. Okay, it might have hit Beto's knee. Is Beto going to finish from there? I got a ground that says he's not. So it was a stupid thing to do, but it's clearly deliberate. There's a clear motion of ball to hand, of hand to ball rather. So of course it's handball. I mean, there's nothing. I'm sorry, you know, that doesn't suit the media narrative. I'm not a great believer in Premier League corruptors, whatever. But you know, that's a penalty every day of the week, and you know, they still had plenty of time to come back into the game. Just because they can't score a goal at home or can only have one shot on target, that's not our problem. I thought Ndai took it really well. I mean, I watch it every time I watch it on the replay. I think, is he actually going to score this? Has he hit it hard enough? But he has.
Yeah, his penalties have my heart in my mouth every time because he really doesn't smack them at all, does he? He just rolls them.
It was exactly like Sigurdsson's in the derby. You know, the COVID derby. It was almost identical to that penalty he scored. But it was like, how can you hit that so soft when you've got a keeper who's probably got time to actually get down and save this? But obviously, he was right in the corner. He couldn't get more in the corner without, you know, hitting the post.
Yeah, I mean, but also, I mean, controversially, you're going to come on to this. Can you be booked for impersonating a seagull? What is that about? How is that a booking?
I want to know if Jamie Vardy got that when he did it that year at Palace, which was brilliant.
We'll have to check that. I don't think he did, but
no, because he does it all the time. He did it for Leicester at the weekend. You not see it because he goes around whenever he scores, tapping the Premier League champions badge. He did it when they played Spurs at home, and he goes up to their fans and he's doing that, pointing it at it, and he runs past them. I'm thinking, if the whole point of this is because it's riling a few people, then okay, it's a yellow card, but a celebration where you're not jumping into the fans, which obviously we know is one. How else are you getting booked? What you're literally doing something? Is it a racist thing? Is it something that's really politically controversial? No, it's not. It's a bit of fun.
Apparently, it's excessive celebrating.
What, impersonating a seagull? Is it?
Apparently so, yeah. So he was booked for excessive celebrating. So I've got Law 12 in the AFAB laws. AFAB law of the game.
There's the name of today's show.
Yeah,
Law 12.
Players can celebrate when a goal is scored. Cheers, lads. But the celebration must not be excessive. Choreographed celebrations are not encouraged, and must not cause excessive time wasting. So we didn't do any of that. It
Well, what
wasn't.
about
Is
James
this
Maddison
another Everton
throwing the
first?
darts? I mean,
Yeah,
James
yeah,
Maddison's
Madison
throwing the darts.
Mopey throwing the dart.
Doesn't Trent Alexander-Arnold do a stupid one, and then the United ones sit on the hoarding and have a chat, or
Yeah.
do the Red Shite do that?
Salah
that's
does that as well, yeah.
Yeah. Dear, oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go. A player must be cautioned even if the goal is disallowed for climbing onto a perimeter fence, and so that should be.
No, that never happens.
He does this.
They from the Dixie Dean years.
So yeah, they're the laws. But apparently,
It's an Everton first. Let's put it to the list.
Yeah, it is.
Yellow card for that, like the Ass Day.
I mean,
yes, that one. Yeah,
we laugh about it, and it is dead funny because it's that ridiculous. But you know, in all seriousness, that puts a key player on a yellow card halfway through the first half there, and you know that can have massive implications towards the end of the game. We already went down to 10 men at the end because of that stupid substitution rule, which again I thought we sorted out the game brilliantly there with 10 men because you think Mangala goes off. That could cause us problems. That was 15 minutes of the game we still had to play there, including injury time. I thought that the players dealt with that really well.
Is that not the only criticism you'd throw at Moyes there?
He couldn't put a player on, could he?
No, that's what I'm saying. No, you know, because you got 3 portions effectively to put your 5 on, haven't you? I'm thinking, is that because he's gone 1-1-2? We'd have an additional player to come on.
Yeah,
but you have to have put it in one of those 3 portions. I'm just thinking when you effectively ended the game with 9 men. Look, he wouldn't have known, obviously, but
it's such a convoluted thing, though, isn't it? It's a really, really strange.
I didn't even know it until the weekend, Les. I had no idea you can make 5 subs. I didn't realise you can't make them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But I think on that though, it is testament to the players the way they saw that game out, particularly when you think the sort of the panic that ensued against Tottenham for the last 15 a bit. I thought, you know, I don't think Brighton came at us as strongly as Tottenham did towards the end of that game, but I just thought the players all really handled it well and saw it out with minimum fuss. And you could see what it meant to everyone at the end of the game. Rodger thought everyone running over to Ghana at the end of the game to celebrate with him because he was outstanding, wasn't he?
Yeah, Ghana or Ghana.
Sorry.
We're back to that now. We're back to
that. Jimmy lad. Yeah, Jimmy lad came on for 5 minutes. He did all right, but big Idrissa, he's or little Idrissa. He's like we said, he's a man reborn. I just wanted to pick up on the Patterson point actually, because whilst he's not a starter, I think he is. Moyes is giving him more of a role than Dyche did. You know, he brought him on 10, 15 minutes into the second half. You know, have 30 minutes. You know, this is it's an important part. You know, super subs off the bench coming on, and you're feeling part of a squad. It's not just you're a constant sub. You'll always be there. I might bring you on for 5 minutes if you're lucky. If there's 10 minutes of added time, you know, because I don't trust you because you're shit, which was kind of the Dyche approach. So I think, there's not, but it's true. Come on.
I don't trust you. I bet you he actually said that as well. You know,
it wouldn't surprise me.
Slapping him around the head. Yeah, of course. Yeah. You know? And if you don't eat your greens, you're not getting on the pitch. You know, it's true. But you know it's happened.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, isn't it? So we talked about the tactical tweaks, but Moyes has definitely come in with a different outlook. Let's say, you know, all players, when a new manager comes in, apart from probably Andy Hinchcliffe when Kendall came back, all players think, right, we've got a clean slate here. And it's like Moyes has come in and he, like you say, Roger, he's not saying to players, you're shit, I'm a good manager, I'm gonna get the best out of you, but you're all crap. He's clearly come in and given players confidence to play, hasn't
he? Yeah. I mean, it's what you have to do.
Laughing at that. I'm sorry. You're not playing. It's your shit.
It's management 101. What David Moyes has done has been a manager and a professional, competent manager. As we said last week, we know what we're doing. The thing that makes me angry in all of this is why did we not get him until now? You know, 2 or 3 other occasions when we went for Carlo and we you know let him down because he was on a plane and didn't have his phone turned on or whatever it was. You know, and Carlo got sacked by Napoli and he was coming into London. The deal was agreed and it never quite happened.
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't pay the compensation to West Ham, so we chose Rafael Benitez over David Moyes. I mean, please God. So just imagine where we'd be if Moyes had come in 3 or 4 years ago. I'm telling you, he'd still be the manager today, and I'm telling you, he'd be the top half of the table because he's competent, basic competent managers with solid professional players. These people haven't won a competition apart from Beto.
Even Mikalenko.
Hang on. He's definitely say to him, "Listen, you're not getting on because you're shit."
But these are professional athletes being paid, over £1 million a year each to play football. They must have some ability. So try and get the best out of them. And Dyche got the worst out of most of these players. It's so annoying to think, God, where might we have been with, Jared Bowen playing and maybe Paquetá playing and these players that he brought in at West Ham. And I didn't realise exactly how far behind he is, Ferguson and Wenger in terms of games. It's like 2 and a bit seasons.
Like 110, something like that, isn't it?
110, 120 games, I think, off Sir Alex. So, he's only 60, 61, 62, just only slightly older than me, good old Davey. So why not? Might be done.
If he sees that contract out, there's no reason why, you can't surpass him and Wenger, really.
He's done like the majority of them at us as well.
Yeah.
Of course.
Over half of them, would it be? Yeah.
More than half, because
more than half.
11 and a half seasons with us, 6 and a bit with United, 1 with Sunderland. Sorry, 6 and a half 5.5 at West Ham.
Yeah,
1 not quite a full season at United and 1 at Sunderland. Yeah, so over half with us, it's got to be.
Do you know one thing, Les? And I know we've got an agenda to go on to now, but I just wanted to touch on how happy that man looks.
Yeah,
and I know I've spent a couple of times speaking about like how speaking to him, looking at him now, and being to see him once, he looks. It's completely different. It looks like a different person. Him going on I don't think I've felt better about Everton in a long time. Certainly an Everton manager, anyway. Yeah. When he's run onto the pitch, he's getting all these players in, and his arms around them and stuff like that, and smiling his head off. I'm thinking, who's this we've had? Because you remember the meme when they won the trophy at West Ham, and he's dancing. I like never thought I'd see that from David Moyes. But then I'm thinking, well, you'd never seen David Moyes win a trophy, so maybe that's what he's actually like as a human being. But this, he's just outwardly showing himself like that. I'm all for that. I love a bit of that, and that's something else. I think is probably for another time to discuss how much he's changed due to the career he's had since he left us. Because I wouldn't go as far as saying it's a roller coaster, because the majority of it he hasn't succeeded. Let's be honest. The Sunderland nonsense, Sociedad, United obviously is the thing that sticks firstly in your mind about it. It feels like him, and not to go too cliche, Everton's his home. And I think, like I said at the time when he was linked with us, he would have walked barefoot back to Everton to be their manager. And you can see that in how he conducts himself. I've seen the interview with Lineker as well. He's talking with a real enthusiasm. And I feel as if that's when you get, obviously in life, when you've got the experience, you get it at the time when you previously needed it. And he's come back now. And I think he's cherishing the role he's got, it seems to me. Yeah. And he's looking at this thinking, and I think he said, you referred there, Rodger, about the amount of games he's played underneath Ferguson and Wenger. And he was saying, I don't know if I'm going to be along that long. He said, but I think he just intimated that I want longer than 2.5 years here. He's got the bit of his teeth there that we never really saw. And hopefully the stars have aligned in terms of what he's able to do, well, in the next week, but also in the summer with a bit of a few quid in the coffers.
Yeah. I thought what Matt said about, when he came on in the post-match about, it's almost like you could see the blood flowing through Everton again.
Yeah.
And we've been in a coma or a life support machine or for a very, very long time, and there was real passion, real belief. We really existed. We've come back to life, reborn. Well, it's not far off Easter. Well, a little way to go, but yeah. David Moyes, the reincarnation, the resurrection. Yeah, I am the resurrection. Stone Roses themed episode next time, perhaps.
There we go. That's what we'll do. I'll get me bucket that in a minute. So on that then, we've got a big month coming up, and You know, I think it's Moyes has said about, or I've read the players said about, you know, he wants to get the fans and the players aligned again, make the most of Goodison and what that can do for the team. So it's potentially quite serendipitous that we've got, like, I think 4 of our next 5 at home, including a cup game, including a derby, and including Man United as well.
Yeah.
So they are 3 massive games that I think, if you're not looking forward to them now, you've got to be a little bit mad, because they are 3 games I really want at Goodison now. Cup game, Man United and Liverpool. You know, it could go horribly wrong, but I think looking at the way we are at the minute, and if you can't look at this now, being a little bit optimistic about things, when can you? You know, so I think this is a huge month coming up. And I think, given what Moyes has done so far, we have got the potential to really get the crowd behind the team again, get that synergy between the two, and really go for these games. But it kicks off against Leicester, like we said, at the weekend. You know, they got... It was a shock win for me that they got at Spurs. I did want them to get beat by Spurs, I think, because I don't think Spurs will get dragged into it too much any more than we will.
Spurs have lost at home to Wolves, Ipswich and Leicester, by the way.
Yeah, they're pretty grim, but I don't know. I still think they'll do enough to stay out of it. I don't know why, just because I think it's Spurs, but, you know.
I think there's a manager thing there, Les. I think with that. I think the only reason he'll keep his job is for that second leg against Liverpool. I think that's probably the one thing he can sort of stay in his mind, saying, look, I've got us potentially going to Wembley and win a trophy here.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I think that, you know, you talk about clean slates, you know, sort of starting your career all over again with a club. Him going and winning a trophy for Spurs, you'd eliminate everything that's shit that's gone on. You'd happily finish 17th on goal difference to go and win a trophy like ourselves would. But I did want to ask also, we're on 23 points now, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
23?
Yeah.
What do you reckon you need to stay up, points-wise? I know we tend to refer to this tally as the season goes on.
Let's have a look. I'm going to say 33.
33, so you're saying 10 more?
36 to be certain. Yeah, I think. Well,
four more wins in what?
Yeah,
four more wins in 16 games.
Yeah, I reckon that'll do it.
You know,
we got Ipswich and Southampton at home.
Yeah, United, they were all over the place, even though they won quite in a jammy way, didn't they? This is massive this weekend, though, Les. I know going back and forth, it's huge. This against Leicester, 6 points aside from being several points above the drop zone, it's still conventional 6 points in my mind.
I think it is because of the swing involved. You know, if we win, we're out of sight of Leicester, basically. If we lose, they're right on our tail. So it is a 6 pointer in terms of it's not.
And Ipswich are at home to Southampton as well. Ipswich are at home to Southampton this weekend.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And we've got the cushion that is Wolves as well, which
Wolves are at home to Aston Villa this weekend. So
when
if we're going to be negative, we could see Wolves winning. Sorry, Wolves could win. We could lose to Leicester, and Ipswich could beat Southampton. Table looks very different, but it won't because we're going to beat Leicester. So don't worry.
I mean, it has been a pretty much dream weekend, hasn't it? When it comes to all that. But our old mate there, who we look like we flirted with for quite some time, in Vitor Pereira, he came in, looked like the saviour for Wolves for a couple of games, and now it's all falling apart again, hasn't it? Now, so
it's a release, that isn't it?
I loved his quote when the player that got sent off, was it Gomez who got sent off?
Gomez, yeah.
He said he was on a yellow card at halftime. He said, I spoke to him at halftime and he said, don't worry, boss, I'll be really controlled. I know exactly what I'm doing. And then he goes over the top, stamps on the guy's foot. It would have been a straight red anyway. But
you see his reaction though. His reaction, you see it, absolutely brilliant, just going ballistic. And like I think the commentator saying, is he being angry there, the fact that he didn't think it was a sending off? Or no, absolutely not. He's fuming with his own player there, being an absolute idiot. And getting sent off there. And look, Arsenal went and did us a bit of a favour there. You know, I think that's a little bit of a cushion we have because there's 3 below Leicester. And I don't think Spurs remarkably are out of it. I think the only reason you say Spurs aren't out of it is because it's Spurs who are traditionally a European side. It probably hampers them a little bit that they're in Europe now. You're playing those extra games, you're doing Thursday, Sundays, or whatever. They'll probably hit maybe 45 towards 50 games at the end of the season. that's going to take its toll, especially when all you hear from Postecoglou is injuries all over the place. We've lost him, we've lost him, we've lost him, and they look like they didn't have a real issue. Then you've got Levy there, Daniel Levy there, who's always happy to sack a manager, isn't he? So they could be in real turmoil for a while. And the thankful thing is we've just gone and beat them and don't have to play them again anyway.
Yeah, like you say, I think the only reason I'm thinking they're out of it is because it's Spurs and they've got good players and they're generally up the top half of the table. But looking at that result yesterday, that would have to worry anybody, the position they're in. If we were in their position on 24 points and we'd just been beaten at home by Leicester, been beaten away by Everton, like you say, Rodger, lost at home to Wolves and Ipswich, you'd be very, very worried in that position. And I think
1 win in 9, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the only worry for me going into next week's game is that gives Leicester a bit of a boost. I think if they'd been beaten by Spurs, they'd have been a bit dead on the feet there. But, I watched the first half of the game and it was crap. It wasn't a good game at all. They looked like two bad teams. So, it's there for us. It's there for the taking for us as far as I'm concerned. But you think Leicester will look at that, how they've played against Spurs and think, right, we just need to do that again at Everton? Because I think we're a bit of a different proposition now, aren't we?
I think so. But just to continue on the Spurs theme very briefly, imagine Spurs do get a result against the Red Shite and get to Wembley. But Arsenal do the wonderful comeback against the Barcodes in the second leg, and Arsenal beat them in the final. This would be very, very Spurs. And then Spurs progress through the Europa League, end up being relegated, and next season they're in the Championship, but they're in the Champions League because they've won the Europa League.
Can you do that these days, though? Is that still eligible?
If you win the Europa League, you get a place in the Champions League. And, they are currently the bookies' favourites to win the Europa League, for God's sake, because there's no dropouts from the Champions League anymore.
But vaguely, I remember, can you still play in European football if you're in second tier of your domestic league?
You would have to check that. You've just spoiled.
No way. There's no way a championship. There's no way a championship side can play in the championship.
No, Wigan did. Wigan did when they won the FA Cup.
Yeah, they went down.
Yeah, that's right. They played in Europe, didn't they?
Didn't Millwall as well when
Millwall did
in the final?
Millwall with the FA Cup. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Millwall didn't win it, but they were the runners-up, and in those days, the runners-up of the FA Cup got a place, even if the winners had already qualified.
The Champions League would be brilliant, though. Seeing the Championship side in the Champions League would be absolutely
and
brilliant.
Only Spurs could do that. Only Spurs could be both in the Champions League and relegated. It would be. It would be. I mean, I feel for them because they've got such good players, and James Maddison's a bit sore, so he can't play against his former team. What's that about? It's nonsense. Here's a question for you. Here's a question. When was the last time David Moyes was in the dugout for an Everton Man United game? He got sacked afterwards.
Was it when we beat them 3-0?
He got sacked afterwards. Do you remember?
Was it the old the Grim Reaper?
Grim Reaper one,
yeah.
That one next to that, yeah.
He was sacked after that game, was he not? In April, late in the season, we beat them, and he got sacked.
Well, I tell you what, you know what, and it won't happen now because Solanke's injured for them. He's like their number 9. The dream is for most the romanticists out there is Richarlison coming back, which might well happen now. No, it won't happen now. But that'd be between the next week or so. You'll have people who are desperate for that to happen. Look, I'd love to get him back, but you in the summer maybe you look at something like that. But there's a romantic element I think to Moyes, and I'm up forever like an old man kicking off about people saying, "Oh, do you know what you're saying that because that's the old Everton and he's got blue in his blood, but he's had to move and all this sort of thing." And I do start to get that feeling with Moyes. Do you know when we're coming up against, particularly the way we're playing and stuff like that? I'm thinking if he got sort of the old gang back together, the way he's got Baines next to him on the dugout as well, I'm starting to sort of get a little bit of that feeling. Like Matt said, you referred to there, Roger. It's like the good old blue veins are starting to pump around your body and stuff like that.
Totally. I don't fear the derby at all. I mean, I rarely fear the derby because I just don't accept that we should be second best to them. But I mean, I know they've got much better players. But that midweek derby, that'll be absolutely fine. Thank you very much.
Be flying at Goodison that as well.
just before we sign off, then let's do our predictions. So we've got 15 points to play for in Feb. Leicester at home, Liverpool at home, Palace away, United at home, Brentford away. How many? Oh no. Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, 15 points to play for. Rodger, how many are we getting?
11.
I was thinking 11 too. Dave?
3 wins, 2 draws.
Yeah, beat Leicester, draw against Liverpool, beat Palace, beat United, draw against Brentford. That's my 11.
So, I wasn't prepared to answer this. So we've got
I
the
wasn't
3
gonna
home.
ask it, so-
Three home games.
Oh, yeah. Okay, the three home games. I'm going Leicester at home. I think we'll beat Brentford away. I think we'll probably get a draw at Palace. So that'd be 7. I'd be content with 7. I'll put it that way. That's quite negative, but I'd be content with 7, which means I'd feel that the Derby and Man United are freebies. But I would put my hat on that we don't get beat in both Liverpool and Man United. I think we'll take points from them. I'd take 2 draws from them. So I'm going to say 9.
9. Either way, right, if we get 9 or if we get 11, let's say, we're pretty much safe by March then. Because that
is remarkable. That is remarkable when you think about it, isn't it? Really, and that's when Sean Dyche gets up with a hangover because he's thinking, "Hang on, if I won 2 more games, and I'm going to probably get to the summer, and then I'm back on the getting the transfers in and trying to sign people like Ashley Barnes and Sam Vokes,
Jay Rodriguez, yeah,
get them back."
Which would be quite funny.
If we're safe by March, then we can concentrate on the FA Cup.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. It's on.
He'll have another job soon, by the way. I'm pretty certain he'll have another job soon.
It's a shame. It's a shame that Leicester won because I thought if Spurs had beaten them, which was quite unlikely, but had they lost, then I'd like to have seen Dyche appointed at Leicester and for him to come back. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
On Saturday, it's Davy Moyes against Dyche. Oh my word.
I've started just off on a tangent. I've started to really like Ruud van Nistelrooy. He just looks the part, doesn't he? I think he looks like a proper like European kind of manager, but he looks like he might well be a bit shit.
Yeah,
with the turtlenecks, the turtlenecks are never a good look. I mean, even Pep looks a bit of a knob with his turtleneck on the bench. I don't really understand.
It looks like his head needs circumcised, doesn't it?
Right.
Oh God,
we will leave it on that note. I think a rare positive Blue Monday. Well, a second one on the bounce, basically. But it's nice to feel like this again on a Monday after a Toffees win. Long may it continue. As we said, we're going into a big February, but we've all been very positive in our outlook on it. So thanks as ever to Rodger, thanks to Dave, thanks to everyone who listened and watches on YouTube. Loads more coming up in the week. You know the drill. But we are all looking forward to Leicester at the weekend now. Up the Toffees.